Hi, this is Byron Brown. I'm a lawyer, the anti-lawyer, and on my channel here, I explain to you legal issues that pop in the news. Jussie Smollett was released from jail, and Alec Baldwin's under fire for his response to a wrongful death lawsuit stemming from the filming of indie western Rust. Jussie's legal team filed an emergency motion to have him released from jail pending the time it takes for his appeal to be decided. How did this start? Well, back on January 29th, 2019, Jussie alleged that he was walking home when two masked men approached him. He further alleged that these men made racist and homophobic insults before beating him up and putting a noose around his neck. Jussie further alleged that these assailants were white and yelled MAGA country, a reference to President Donald Trump's campaign slogan, Make America Great Again. On February 20th, 2019, Jussie was charged with felony disorderly conduct for filing a false police report. Then, quickly, on March 26, 2019, it was announced that all criminal charges against Jussie were being dropped. Well, it doesn't end there. On June 21st, 2019, a judge appointed a special prosecutor to investigate why the charges against Jussie were being dropped. Then after that investigation, on February 12, 2020, Jussie was indicted on 6 counts of disorderly conduct related to making 4 separate false reports. It was alleged that Jussie knew he was not a victim of a crime. Jussie's criminal trial began on November 29, 2021 and concluded on December 9, 2021 when the jury found Jussie guilty of 5 of the 6 counts of filing a false police report. On March 10, 2022, Jussie was sentenced to 30 months felony probation, ordered to pay more than $120,000 in restitution, pay a $25,000 fine, and serve 150 days in jail. On March 16, 2022, Jussie was released from jail after his legal team filed an emergency motion to have him released pending his appeal. If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel. So what was Jussie's argument? Jussie's legal team argued that irreparable harm would result to Jussie if he served the entire jail sentence and then wins his appeal. Meaning, it would not serve justice if Jussie's appeal is successful after he served the entire jail sentence, because then essentially he's being punished for a crime he didn't commit. Additionally, it was argued that Jussie has a serious health risk due to him being immune compromised and having possible COVID-19 exposure in jail. What was the prosecution's position? Well, the prosecution argued there was no legal basis for Jussie to be released from jail pending his appeal. They responded to Jussie's legal team's argument by stating that if it was taken to its logical conclusion, then any person convicted of a crime would not have to serve jail time when an appeal was filed. Well, what's Jussie's position in the appeal? Well, the main argument in Jussie's appeal is that his constitutional rights were violated because he got charged for the same crime twice. This legal issue is commonly referred to as double jeopardy. Jussie was originally charged on February 20th, 2019. Those charges were then dropped and Jussie forfeited a $10,000 bail. And on February 12th, 2020, Jussie was charged a second time. Prior to Jussie being convicted, a judge dismissed the double jeopardy argument based off the logic that since Jussie was not legally punished for the first set of charges, there was no double jeopardy. Well, I don't believe Jussie should have been released from jail pending his appeal. There is no double jeopardy. Double jeopardy only applies if there's an adjudication of a matter, meaning a trial and a verdict. With Jussie's first set of charges, there was no plea entered, there was no jury impaneled, there was no witnesses sworn, there was no evidence heard, there was no trial. Nothing happened. There is no double jeopardy. Jussie was not released based upon the law. Jussie was released because he's a celebrity. If there's no public outcry, Jussie would not have been released from jail. If Jussie was not a celebrity, there would have been no public outcry. Despite all the efforts made within our country to bring people together and for people to be treated fairly regardless of status, cases like Jussie's reinforce the fact that if a person's status will dictate how they're treated, socially, politically, and legally. I'm a proponent of the law being applied equally to every human being. No matter your celebrity status, your social status, your political status, or your economic status, none of those factors should come into play of how you're treated in a court of law. But we see this constantly play out, even recently with Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin's always under fire, but as many of you heard, he's facing a lawsuit stemming from an incident that occurred on the set of the indie western movie Rust. The lawsuit alleges in part that Baldwin is responsible for the death of cinematographer Miss Helena Hutchins. What are the facts? Well, on October 21st, 2021, Baldwin and others were at the Bonanza Creek Ranch movie set near Santa Fe, New Mexico, rehearsing a scene from the indie western Rust. The movie called for Baldwin to remove an old-fashioned revolver from his holster and shoot it at the camera. Hutchins and director Joel Sousa both were behind the camera. The gun was not supposed to contain any live ammunition, but unfortunately it did. And when the gun fired, Hutchins was killed and director Sousa was injured. Hutchins' husband, son, and estate have now filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Baldwin and others involved in the filming of Rust. Since the filing of the lawsuit, Baldwin has come under fire for many things, but two in particular: his attempts to shift liability he may face to the producers of Rust, and filing to move this matter into binding arbitration. Both of these issues most likely stem from contracts Baldwin signed prior to the filming of Rust. Again, if you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel. What are these contracts? In the entertainment business, whether it's a movie or a TV show, contracts are prevalent. These contracts bind the parties. They stipulate the compensation the parties are to receive. They outline potential legal liabilities that the parties may face and other issues. Potential legal liabilities involve someone getting sued for something that happens during the filming of a movie or a TV show. It is common within these contracts for individuals to be liable for their own intentional actions that may hurt someone, but almost never liable for other people's actions. For example, if someone came into your place of work and injured themselves, slipping and falling, they may have a case against your employer and the owner of the property, but they would not have a case against you or your fellow colleagues. All of this is agreed to prior to the filming of Rust, meaning everybody is aware and agreed to these indemnity and binding arbitration provisions before anything ever happens. It's an indemnity provision. Well, indemnity is a fancy word that means when someone incurs a loss, the parties agree someone else will pay for that loss. This is super common in contracts. So it's come out that Baldwin is seeking producers from the movie Rust to cover his legal bills and possibly any settlement or judgment. People are accusing Baldwin of trying to avoid or shield himself from liability. Maybe, but he is legally allowed to do what he's doing by relying upon the indemnity provision within his contract. More likely than not, everybody in this lawsuit has insurance covering most, if not all, of their legal bills and any settlement and or any judgment. If you believe you're not at fault for someone's injury, yet you're sued by that injured person, and you have the legal contractual ability to protect yourself, you do it every time, and that's exactly what Baldwin is doing. Another issue that Baldwin is under fire for is seeking to move this matter into binding arbitration. The issue was for sure outlined in a contract Baldwin signed prior to filming of Rust. So what is a binding arbitration clause? A binding arbitration clause is where the parties agree to present any potential dispute they may have to an arbitrator, and that arbitrator renders a final binding decision. This is very common within contracts, and most states within the union allow parties to contract to have matters placed into binding arbitration. Like most things, binding arbitration has its pros and cons. The pros, it's cheaper, it's quicker, and it's final. The cons, it could result in a more conservative ruling than if the matter was heard by a jury, and it's final. Well, the possibility of a more conservative award is likely why Baldwin fancies binding arbitration, because if he has to pay or someone has to pay, it'll be less. Also, it will resolve the case much faster than if it proceeded through the normal justice system. This would allow Baldwin to move past this issue quickly and move on with his life and career. People are angry that Baldwin is relying upon this binding arbitration clause, and I'm not sure why they'd be angry. Other than a general feeling, I guess, that Baldwin should move through the legal process like everybody else does. However, by entering into a contract with a binding arbitration provision, similar to the indemnity provision, the parties to the contract are agreeing to those things prior to the filming of Rust ever beginning. As such, Baldwin's doing exactly what any competent lawyer would tell him to do. Do everything you can to protect yourself. Baldwin has a giant name, and it's normal in situations like this for parties to sue everybody, especially the people with bigger pockets. It's better to sue everybody and potentially have to let out certain parties than not to include everybody and then lose the ability to pursue those parties. It's part of the strategy in every case to sue everybody, especially the people with the largest pockets. It's also completely normal for any party within a lawsuit to do everything they can to protect themselves. I get it, man. The optics of what Baldwin's doing looks bad. But if anybody was in his shoes, they'd do the exact same thing. It's not like Baldwin intentionally shot anybody. Baldwin relied upon the prop experts, the gun experts, directors, and other people on set to ensure the set was safe. Baldwin was not hired for his gun expertise, his gun safety expertise, or anything other than his ability to act. It seems very commonsensical that if someone relies upon someone else's advice in a setting where everybody's liable for their own conduct, that there would be contractual provisions protecting people from potential issues outside of their expertise. And that's exactly what an indemnity clause does within these particular circumstances. Because Baldwin's not a gun expert. Everybody knows he's not a gun expert. He knows he's not a gun expert. As such, Baldwin and his representatives would ensure that if there was an injury on set involving a gun, that Baldwin would be protected. He would be indemnified against any potential liability. This may anger some people, but it's as common as peanut butter and jelly. Thanks for watching. Please share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.